Yeah, well, it was because I was in the family already. I was married to Face Man, Templeton Peck, Dirk Benedict.
Yeah.
So the producers, Cannell, and everybody over there at the offices knew me. They knew I was a professional actor. And so they were always kind of keeping their eyes open for a part that I could come on in and read for. I did read for it. I wasn't given the part.
Mm.
So I auditioned and I got the part, and it was great, which was funny. I played a pregnant girl in the movie, in the episode, and hadn't had a baby yet with Dirk, and
Yeah.
then we had two kids. So then I was officially pregnant, but I pretended to be pregnant in that episode.
And Tony, obviously, the main guest actor for that episode was Wings Hauser, who played sort of Cade Harmon, and he was sort of a boy sensation, dare I say, in the 1980s in terms of an actor, in terms of coming up, one of those guys who was tipped to sort of superstardom at the time. And what was it like working with Wings? And was he very excited himself to be on the A-Team? And obviously, you were playing that sort of family dynamic.
Yeah, he Wings was great. I thought Wings was amazing. I learned a lot from him. He was very confident on set, and a lot of the TV series, you get a mixture of level of actors. You'll get the brand new actor, like you said, it's their first job ever, and they're on the A-Team, right? And then you have seasoned George Peppard and Wings Hauser and all the people that have come through that have had massive careers. So Wings was really gracious and fun and a little bit aloof, but really great to work with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose, Tony, I know obviously you have a personal dynamic to the A-Team, and you would have probably heard a good lot that went on. We spoke to many actors and actresses, all had pleasant things, wonderful things to say about Dwight Schultz. Everyone found Mr. T. Jokerville in a good sort of jolly mood. Your ex-husband Dirk, even though he played this charismatic character on scene, and people found him a quite reserved man, sort of quite kept to himself, very sort of dare I say pragmatic in his sort of approach. But the many stories that we've heard, unfortunately, being good or bad, have been about George Peppard and people's relationships with him. An awful lot of people have good things to say about George, and a good lot of people that we've spoken to have had not so really nice things to say about their experiences with George Peppard on the A-Team. And what was it like for you, Tony, with George? Have you pleasant memories of George, or like Marla Heasley, is it not a fond disdain in memory of working with George Peppard?
Well, George, George and I got along great. We
Okay,
got along
fantastic.
really well, and we were at the wedding that he when he married Alexis, and it was really a family affair. But the strife that would happen on set usually became around contract time, when the when a season was over and then they were going to go into the next season, and everyone's negotiating their contracts, and they finally gave in to the favored nations so that everyone got paid the same. Because what happened in the show is they created the Cal created the series, but thinking George Peppard would be the breakout guy. He was the movie star, Blue Max and Breakfast at Tiffany's. He's this amazing actor doing a TV series. And so when they set it up, they're thinking that George might be, the guy. And
Yeah,
then it ended up being T.
yeah,
Mr. T's the one who broke out. And there was a lot of friction. There was friction because egos, who's got the bigger trailer and who's getting paid the bigger paycheck. So it became favored nations. So then year after year, the 4 years that they were participating in the show, they got paid the same. But it was quite volatile for a little while. And T loved to create an energy and a mood on set. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but T would very much always announce when he had to go to the bathroom,
yeah,
very loudly. All right, I got to take me a poo poo. And he would just get up and go. And then the set would have to just wait until he came back from his experience in his motorhome. So yeah, it was egos being thrown around. You had the movie star, you had the breakout reality guy, the black big, chains.
Yeah.
It was such a caricature, and he captured so many people's imagination. This and so yeah, George was great. Dwight, we hung out with Dwight and Wendy Schultz a lot
Yeah,
personally.
you were yeah, Dirk and Dwight are still even today are great friends.
Yes, we vacationed together, we hung out together a lot. And the one thing that I experienced that was quite amazing was the trip to Holland with the A-Team.
Okay.
We went to Holland, and they weren't doing anything but just showing up to Holland. And at the airport, there were so many people at the airport that we needed security to go from the airplane to the actual airport, because it was a mob. They hadn't had that many people at the airport since the Beatles in 1964. So it was quite the thing. And we went from Sikorsky helicopters, and we would fly into a place, and you would look down, and there would just be all these massive little tiny people everywhere. We'd land in a helicopter, get out, they'd run around in a car, and people would go, hey, and then we'd get in the helicopter and go to another place. That was an experience because it was so big and so grand in reference to the response. So you had T in the Amsterdam canals, standing up outside the sunroof of the little boat yelling, Van Housen, Van Julie, and it's I love you. And it was quite the experience. And we got separated. So the spouses and the wives we got separated from the A-Team, because security didn't know who we were as opposed to just the people. And so we had to wear bands on our arms to identify us, that we weren't just random fans hanging out. So it was quite the thing.
And I suppose, Tony, before I come back to your episode, I've got another question to ask you. And obviously with your relationship, and obviously with Dirk as well, Dirk might have mentioned to you in the past about this, but in the first season, the A-Team, in the second season, they had Amy Allen, the actress who played Amy Allen. And this was a very much driven male testosterone show. And George felt that basically the woman element in the A-Team wasn't working, basically. And basically Amy had to go. Basically, that was the dynamic there. And then obviously the producers, directors wanted to bring in another woman to replace her, and the character Tanya Baker, but George was sort of against that as well. But Marla Heasley got hired, and basically Marla tried to last it. But what was it like? Did Dirk ever mention to you about that, about Amy and this sort of thing? And obviously they tried to stay back and just let it off, I suppose, in terms of that. But George was adamant that there was no place for a leading lady on the A-Team.
Yeah, it was really George and Dirk that didn't really like having the female. They really believed, George and Dirk believed, that the male bonding, the whole machismo part of the show was more important than putting tits and ass. Like, we don't need tits and ass. What are you doing? But that was the mode of television back then. It really was. You had the guys in the adventure, and then you have the token chick, because you got to cover all the bases. But yeah, they weren't a fan of that. T could care less. Dwight, one way or the other, didn't matter. But George and Dirk, often conversations, with the cigar smoking, sitting there, get rid of these chicks. We don't need them around, that kind of thing. Yeah, really typical guy stuff.
Okay, and obviously back to your episode now. Thanks for sharing that wonderful information with us. Back to your episode. You're playing the character Dana Harmon, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Obviously based around NASCAR racing and driving and sort of such. Obviously you got to experience and work with Stephen Cannell up close, and the stunts team in the A-Team. And wow, what can we say about the stunts team in the A-Team in the 80s? They were above and beyond. And even though you had been on TJ Hooker and Knight Rider and these shows where they had terrific stunts as well, were you still taken back about what they were able to do in the A-Team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was, as much as it was real stunts happening, it was also played off as, you know, they would do all these stunts and then just get up and brush themselves off. There was no blood. No one ever died, really, you know? And so it's kind of it was a tongue-in-cheek thing in reference to the stunts, because it was almost like a live action cartoon in reference the humor, you know, it was very, there was so many levels of humor during the whole thing. So they would do a stunt, but then they kind of look at the camera and wink at you, you know, it was slightly different. But the stunt teams, Norman Howell, who doubled Dirk all the time pretty much, what did he do, Dancing with Wolves with Kevin Costner? I mean, he was
Yeah.
a really classy stunt guy. And the second unit directing was great. Well, who was the second unit? Baxley. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was Baxley. And so the stunt world we were all friends with. We all lived out in Agua Dulce, California, and stunt crew and people, they had horses and land, and you know, the stunt guys did so many different things that they needed space. So this area out in Agua Dulce we lived in California, there was a lot of the stunt people out there. So we all kind of lived out in the desert hanging out. But the stunt world is quite the thing. Actually, I saw Norman Howell at one of the, I think it was the Emmys, and he was honored. He was honored, and I got to say hi to him. I hadn't seen him in a long, long time, but he doubled Dirk pretty much the whole time.
And I suppose Tony, Stephen Cadell had an awful lot of productions in the 80s, and normally numerous actors and actresses that had appeared in one Cadell productions normally got to appear in a whole sort of host of them throughout the 80s and 90s. And I'm sure that might have been the case for yourself at times as well. But working with Stephen and your memories on set in the A-Team, was Stephen very hands-on in how he liked to be involved in these sort of concepts in terms of his design, his sort of vision? Would he actively be on set? Would he be actively looking on, involved? Maybe the day-to-day sort of running it. Was he a guy that maybe was a visionary in terms of that these were his babies, dare I say?
That's a good question. I would think that the way I would look at Stephen J. Conlan, he was very specific and precise, but it was before the episode started shooting. In other words, the preparation for the episode and casting it and writing it, obviously. But by the time we started shooting, Stephen wasn't around that much. He wasn't on set all the time. He really had confidence in the people that he hired and had a really well-oiled system going on. So with all the directors that he had coming in and in and out and through, yeah, I mean, the cast had their favorite directors that they liked working with. But it was just always availability and, you know, who was available. But Cannell was very specific. He had quite a vision for this show, and stuck to it. He was tough. And he actually said, you know, I didn't like, because they cast that other guy besides Dirk at first, right?
Yeah.
That pilot episode. And the story that Dirk tells me is that eventually Cannell just said, look, I'm not doing it unless you hire Dirk.
Okay.
Because the other guy had no sex appeal. And it was like, we gotta have one guy that's got sex appeal, you know? And so he fought for Dirk. And so Dirk got the part eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose you mentioned all those combustible elements in the A-Team that made it so great. And obviously Mr. T from his wrestling background, George Peppard from Breakfast at Tiffany's, Aubrey Hepburn. We all know the iconic movies. Then obviously Dirk, a big sort of sci-fi star, and the movies Battlestar Galactica, other elements in terms of the thing. But Dwight Schultz was the unknown coming into the A-Team when he landed his role on the A-Team. And one thing that Dwight separated from the rest of these cast was the ability to improv in terms of improv acting, be able to go off in a tangent, go off in a spiel for maybe 2 minutes, or these sort of crazy sort of loops that he would go off in and maybe come back to life, and be able to switch that on and off between right take and cut, and then being able to go again. But you're also amazed by his comedic abilities in terms of Dwight, that he was able to just flick it like a switch, like a light bulb, and it didn't affect him, and he could just turn back to normal society then, and a very much a grounded, level person.
Yeah, Dwight is comes from the theater. He has I mean, so does Dirk actually. But the Dwight and Dirk were the creative, constant banter, vamping, the comedy between the two of them, and they could just go. I mean, there's that one episode where Dwight and Dirk are trying to garner some car or truck and to be able to rescue somebody, right? And they have to pretend to be somebody that's investigating, and they play these characters. And there's the one episode where Dirk plays a guy who has to go get something for the A-Team, and he puts on a character with glasses and a clipboard, but he plays the guy, and this is Dirk and Dwight sitting waiting to play, and Dirk hadn't really decided how to attack this scene. And as they were vamping and talking, Dirk made a joke. He's smoking a cigar, he's sitting there, and he's going, I should just play him like he needs to take a crap. And Dwight goes, oh, that would be great. And he goes, yeah, I'll just go, well, I just and so they started vamping on the side, this way of talking, and Dirk just took it and he went right in and he played this guy, and every word he said as if he was trying to push one out. I know that sounds silly, but they thought it was the most hysterical thing, and it was just an underlying joke they had between each other. But as he's talking to the guy, so you don't really think that so there, the humor and the vamping was really Dirk and Dwight. Dirk just was a little quieter about it. He didn't deliver it the way Dwight delivered it, but the brains connected. Yeah.
And I suppose being a part of the extended family, second last question for you now, being a part of the extended family of the A-Team and living in that period of the 1980s as well, was it a sort of a highlight in terms of living, being involved in that TV sort of series in the whole world, was it? Or was there some times where you might have felt, yeah, drama, tension, if maybe we could do with a bit of break time from it all? Because there was roughly, 15, 20 episodes per season. Some of those seasons, especially 3 and 4, when it was at its peak, they were long seasons with long episodes in terms of what we normally conceive now these days, 10 episodes or a season. Back then it was
Right.
20. So this was maybe 10, 11 months. You're part of this family, and obviously times, on the set, things can be good, and we know with the A-Team things were a bit bad at times as well. So was it a mixture of the good and bad being part of that family?
No, it was all good.
It's all good.
There really wasn't any bad. I mean, what is bad? The A-Team was the #1 show here in the U.S. for a couple of years, rivaling Hill Street Blues and some other really critically acclaimed, good acting shows. But the A-Team kept coming up #1. So it was NBC. It was just pulling NBC out of the dumper. So the journey was quite wonderful, and there was really no bad about it at all. The drama and the thing, it was just it's part of the industry, because you bring a whole bunch of people together that don't know each other to do something creative, and you become a family all of a sudden, and then you're not, and then you come together, and then you're not. But being part of the inside scoop was just pleasant. It was really pleasant. It was a nice ride.
And I suppose on that note, Toni Hudson, the final question for you, maybe you could enlighten us with the answer to 2 sentences for you. Can you sum up Toni Hudson's guest experience on playing Dana Harmon on season 4, episode 8 of the A-Team? If you to summarize your own experience in front of the camera on the A-Team in 2 sentences, what would you like those 2 sentences to read?
Okay, on the spot, you have me. 2 sentences would be lovely to be included in the creative A-Team experience, I guess is what it would be, because being a spouse, they're all included and they do it every day and they go, and it's, and you're over there on the sidelines, but you do the same thing as a profession. So to be included, I think made the relationship between everybody just a little bit deeper. It was really great. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I share one thing that I have going on right now that I'd
Yes,
love to
please do. Please
about?
do.
My book just came out, my latest book.
Okay. Tender Love by
Yes,
Toni Hudson. I advise all our viewers, all our listeners, go online. Where can we purchase this, Toni, if we want to purchase this?
Amazon.com has this book, and it's 14 short stories of dates on Tinder.
Okay, very good. And is it a fiction or a real story, Toni?
These are taken from real experiences, people.
Okay, okay. So a bit of light-hearted sort of reading. Very good.
Yeah, it's just about dating.
Okay, okay.
So
On
you
that,
got to and bring me to Ireland. I want to go. Let's do it.
yes.
Let's do an A-Team convention.
We will, we will. On that note, Toni Hudson, thanks for joining us this evening to share your experiences of appearing on the A-Team Season 4, Episode 8. You played Dana Harmon on the episode Blood, Sweat and Tears, which aired on November the 19th, 1985. And Toni, from me, Jim Conlan, to you, stay safe, take care, and God bless.
Thank you. Lovely to have you.